Hey everybody, today I am going to cook my husband a sweetheart chocolate lava cake for Valentine's Day, and I'm going to use my solar sun oven. So I want to show you my oven. I'm at 300 and give or take 25 degrees, and come on inside and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm inside. This is the Obsessive Prepper AZ. I am going to make my husband a molten lava cake for Valentine's Day using my solar oven. And again, I'm talking about using food storage and not having to use electricity. So what you're going to do is you're going to have, I've doubled the recipe because I figure if I'm going to go to this kind of work, I'm going to go ahead and double the recipe, and then that way I can either freeze it or I can put it in my refrigerator and we can have it for another day. So the recipe that I'm cooking is going to make 8 ramekins of the molten lava cake. I'll probably put it in make 6 of them in larger containers. But what it calls for to double the recipe is 2 sticks of butter. So if you're just doing a single recipe, it would be 1 stick of butter, a half a cup. I'm putting an entire cup of butter in. Also, what you would want to use is a half a cup of chocolate. Now, you could use the bittersweet, semi-sweet. I've got a mix of the Ghirardelli and then also just regular semi-sweet chips. So what I've done is I've done a half a cup of each one. I'll do a little bit extra because I like chocolate. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this out to my solar sun oven, and I'm going to put it in there and I'm going to let it melt for a little while. Then I'll go out and stir it. So when it gets to be the point where it's melted, because the whole point of this video is not using your microwave, not using your stove or oven. So I'm going to go ahead and get this in my solar sun oven. When it starts to melt, I'll bring you back. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes, and my oven is at give or take 340 degrees, and you can see that my butter is completely melted and my chocolate. So I'm going to go ahead and take this inside. If I can get my hands on it, I didn't think to bring out another pot holder. Extremely hot. And I'm going to bring this inside and bring you inside, and we'll get to cooking. Okay, so I'm inside, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to mix my butter and my chocolate together. I've got my flour. I've already have my ramekins, and this recipe calls for you to grease them and then lightly coat them with a little white sugar. So I've already done that. And this recipe calls for some coffee, some instant coffee, vanilla, salt, eggs. What the recipe calls for is whole eggs and then egg yolks. But because I am using powdered eggs, I am only going to use whole eggs, clearly, and no egg yolks. But this is a trial and error. It's something that I wanted to try in my solar sun oven. Try to get as close to the ingredients and the product as possible, but using your food storage and using your solar sun oven. That was the whole purpose of this. So my chocolate's almost completely combined here, and I'm telling you, I am February 13th. I'm doing the day before Valentine's Day because I kind of wanted to get this video out there for y'all. And our weather is so beautiful outside, and my oven got so hot so quick, and without having to use a microwave oven or anything. Okay, so what this recipe calls for, like I said, a single recipe would be a half a cup of butter, which would be 1 stick of butter, and then also a half a cup of chocolate, semi-sweet chocolate or bittersweet, whatever you want. So what I've done is I've doubled this up. So I used a cup of butter and then also a cup of your chocolate. Now what it says is to stir until smooth, then stir in confectioner's sugar. And this recipe calls for 1 cup of powdered sugar. Well, what I've got here, because I'm doubling the recipe, is 2 cups of powdered sugar. And what I gained from there's different recipes. Some call for just regular sugar, like a 1/3 cup of regular sugar. I'm assuming that the reason why they want you to use powdered sugar is because it doesn't leave any granules and it condenses down a lot faster. So that's what we got here. I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is switch my chocolate and everything into my bigger bowl here so I can actually stir it. If everybody's noticed that's watched my videos, I love my flat top. I cook on it all the time. Okie doke. So I'm mixing that up. And I'm going to get a little bit stronger of a spatula because I don't like how this one's bending with this chocolate. Hey everyone, I am so sorry. My recording stopped and it didn't let me show the rest of your ingredients. I got a new camera and I have been trying to fiddle with it and understand it, and this thing, I'm going to have to figure out a new memory card because it doesn't hold a lot of memory, so I think I'm filming and it shuts completely off, so I want to apologize for that. In the last segment I pretty much had already poured the powdered sugar in, and all I did was stir it down until it was completely smooth, and at that point what the recipe calls for is 2 whole eggs and then 2 egg yolks. Doubled, it was 4 whole eggs and 4 egg yolks. So what I ended up doing is incorporating my powdered eggs and then also water to make them a whole egg, and I ended up making a total of 8 eggs that I put into this. So instead of egg yolks and eggs, I put a whole 8 whole eggs into these into my mixture. After I stirred in my egg yolks, my eggs, what it called for is 1.5 teaspoons of instant coffee, and then I put 3 teaspoons in because I doubled my recipe. 3/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract, which I did almost 2 teaspoons because I love vanilla, and then 1/2 teaspoon of salt, which I put a whole teaspoon in because I doubled. And then it called for 6 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and I ended up putting 12 tablespoons of flour in. So all I did was completely incorporate all those ingredients, stirred until it was completely smooth, and then I poured them into my ramekins here. My ramekins were already greased, and then I used a little sugar. That's what the recipe called for, instead of flour, sugar. And so then I come out here and I've got them in my Solar Sun oven. So I'm sorry about that. Got to get this camera figured out. It's kind of messing me up these days. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and I just put these in. It's 310 degrees. I'm going to start at 15 degrees. 15 minutes. Now, I don't know if you can see back there at that one there, it is already starting to bake. Now, I did the larger ramekins, but I think they'll be just as long as the smaller ones because the product is spread out versus up tall. So this has only been, I'm going to call it 5 minutes, and it's already starting to bake here. So I'm going to go ahead and keep an eye on this, get out of the way of the sun oven so the full sun can hit it, and then I'll get back with you. Okay, so it has been 25 minutes, and my solar oven is at 310 degrees now, and it's probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon here in Arizona. Let me go stabilize this back a little bit. I put a little shim on the back side of my solar oven just to raise it just a little bit more so it could get a little bit more of the heat. So let me open this up and we're going to see what we got here. Let me pull this glove off real quick. I can see through the glass one here that it's cakey on the outside. Now I use white ramekins, and everybody says that you need to use black because it'll reflect the heat. It looks to me like my white ramekins have done just fine in here, but I'm probably going to need at least another, I'm going to call it 15 minutes on the white ones. And on my clear glass ones. So I'm going to go ahead and close this up, and I'm going to give it, well, I'm going to give it 10 more minutes. It's close to being done. You don't want it to be completely cooked inside and out because you want it to be that lava cake where it is runny. So I'm going to give it 10 more minutes. And I'm going to get back with you. Okay, super happy with the turnout here of just the 10 extra minutes that I have done here. You can see now where the cake in the white ramekins has completely lifted up and rose. Super excited. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull these out of my oven and sit them on my tray, and then all the recipe states is to let it sit for 5 minutes, run a knife along the sides, and then you're going to take it and invert it onto a plate. So happy. The only challenge is getting this out of here without your shelf on your sun oven swinging too much where you lose your product. It's funny because on the outside of the oven it's so cool to the touch, these panels, but inside the oven it is so hot. I'm so happy my lava cakes have turned out. So I'm going to bring you inside and I'm going to invert one onto a plate and show you the
my
results.
cakes have rested for about 5 minutes now, and all the recipe, like I said, to do was take a knife and run it along the outskirts of your ramekin. And I'm going to take my plate, put it over the top, and hopefully, if all is well, the sucker's going to come out. And it did. Oh yeah. And you take a little bit of powdered sugar there, and all I used, now the only thing I didn't use that was in my food storage was butter. The eggs I used, the flour, the sugars, your chocolate chips, your instant coffee, salt, vanilla, all that was in my food storage. Now I'm going to go ahead and leave my solar oven out till tomorrow, and I'm going to do a half a recipe because I want to find out if coconut oil will work just like the butter. And obviously it'll change the taste a little bit, but again, this whole experience is learning how to cook with your food storage. And trial taste. So hot. Sorry I didn't let it cool down. That was hot. It turned out excellent. The only difference that I can see is the center is not necessarily runny. It's more like a soft fudge inside. But super tasty. So, I hope you enjoy this recipe. I'm going to put the directions down at the bottom. Like I said, I tried to show you the regular recipe and then double recipe. The recipe that I am going to post is going to be the regular recipe for 4 ramekins. And like I said, I'm going to do a follow-up video on coconut oil and try that because I want to try their food storage and keep using food storage and showing you recipes for food storage, because you don't have to eat like you're a hiker. Super good. Give it a try. Y'all have a blessed day.